Hey, MCE crew, Kroger says food prices are going up. We're going to talk to you about how to deal with this. They're going up big time, okay? This is going to be a shock to the system and probably change dietary behaviors of a lot of people who aren't prepared for what's about to happen. So we're going to get into that. First, let me just demonstrate to you again how out of touch Washington, D.C., the politicians and the bureaucrats are with you. And this is a reason why you can never count on them to actually put forth a solution that's going to help you to achieve financial independence. Recently, one of President Biden's economic advisors, a genius by the name of Brian Deese, came out and he said that food prices are normal if you exclude beef, chicken, and pork. Hey! That's what he said. So if you, your kids, and your spouse all decide to become vegans, then, you can escape a lot of inflation. So let's get into what Kroger is talking about, because this is huge, man. When I talk to you about what the prices have done and what they expect them to do, you might be blown away. We're going to talk about something that needs to happen in your life ASAP in order so that you can insulate yourself against these rising food prices, because you've got to eat. And the more you spend on food, the less you have to invest and get working for you. Let's jump right in. Grocery prices headed higher, says Kroger. Beef prices have risen 14% this year, while pork prices have jumped 12.1%, and poultry prices are up 6.1%. These are pretty massive jumps, especially if you've got a family. And I always say that, it's just me and my wife. We don't have kids. So I've got a lot of friends. We've got, the wife, the kids, the whole 9 yards. I'm walking out of the Harris Teeter with 2 bags. It cost me $50 to $70, depending on what I got. Okay. I can only imagine what it's like for a family of 4. Grocery prices are headed higher later this year, according to the U.S.'s largest supermarket by sales. That will be Kroger. Cincinnati-based Kroger, which had $132 billion in sales last year, says inflation is running hotter than management previously anticipated, and that expectations are now for prices to rise 2 to 3% over the second half of this year. All right, so if prices go up, let's just be conservative and take their 2% figure. That would mean the beef prices would be up 16% this year alone. That would mean pork prices would have risen 14% this year alone. And that poultry price would be nearing 10%. It'd be 8%, 8.6%. Okay, so I guess the only thing left is fish, right? And fish is not cheap to begin with in any environment. Now, this is key. Kroger is, quote, passing along higher costs to the customer where it makes sense to do so, unquote, said CFO Gary Millerchip on the company's second quarter earnings call on Friday. Look, he was on the earnings call. The shareholders don't want to hear you're going to eat these price increases, because that means less value for them as owners of the company. That's going to be passed on. And remember this, when they start talking about taxes on the rich, taxes on the wealthy companies. This company gets taxed, they pass it on to you in the form of higher prices at the cash register. Always remember that, okay? Don't fall for this politician BS rhetoric. Management at Kroger's rival, Albertsons Company, earlier this summer expressed similar concerns that inflation would pick up in the second half of the year, and that they too would pass on the increased cost to the customers. Further increases at the checkout counter would put further pressure on consumers who are already dealing with the biggest annual increase in consumer prices since August of 2008. So it's been well over a decade since we've seen prices rise at this type of precipitous clip. Within the Consumer Price Index, the component for food at home has risen 6 months in a row and is up 2.6% this year. Let me tell you a little something about Maryland, where I live. And I know I said that with an accent. My wife is not from Maryland, so she always says I have an accent. Maybe I do. In any event, we love crabs down here. Steamed crabs, crab cakes, soft shell crabs. We just love the blue crab. It's a delicacy here. And I love crabs, man. I like to get a dozen of steamed crabs. I like to get some crab meat and make crab cakes. Do you know crab meat down here, the real good kind that you make really good crab cakes with, is selling for $55 for like a quart, okay? Steamed crabs, don't even think about it, all right? I'm willing to pay like $100 for a dozen of crabs. But from what I'm hearing, that's not even getting you in the door with the good-sized crabs these days. So we're talking about food you prepare at home. That's what I'm talking about when I say I'm going to get the crab meat for the crab cakes. Skyrocketing, okay? And I might get me a quart of crab meat before the weather gets cold. But then again, I might not. I have to eat them all. I mean, I'm not going to waste a bit at those prices. Prices were up in 5 of the 6 major grocery store food groups in July, falling only for fruits and vegetables. I told you, those vegans, it's their time. The category saw a price dip of 0.9% after rising 0.7% in June. So for the vegetables, the prices are lower than they had been in June. And we need our veggies. It's a healthy thing. The Federal Reserve said that the price increases that have occurred in the wake of the COVID-19 event are transitory. Well, we're still waiting for them to be transitory, Jerome Powell, over there at the Federal Reserve. And maybe they will be. But for now, these corporations are forecasting, and I'm going to tell you, I would trust the corporations before I trust Jerome Powell, okay? Jerome Powell is a bureaucrat. He is not on the front lines of the economy. No matter what happens with the economy, Jerome Powell will be just fine. He won't have to worry about these price increases to the extent that folk like you and I do. All right, so here we are down here trying to afford food. And as usual, the government is playing the let them eat cake role. And I think they're going to play a little class warfare. It's always creative when they do that with stuff that affects all of us. Okay, I don't care where you come from, what color you are, who you like to sleep with. You need to eat. We all have that in common. The Biden administration says issues related to the supply chain caused by COVID-19 and increased demand are the blame for these high prices. Now, that increased demand bit is interesting to me because are you saying we're eating more than we were before COVID-19? It sounds like a dubious claim. The administration blames what they say is a lack of competition in meat processing. Quote, just 4 large conglomerates control the majority of the market for each of these 3 products, beef, poultry, and pork. And the data shows that these companies have been raising prices while generating record profits during the pandemic, said National Economic Council Director, there he is again, Brian Deese, at a press conference on Wednesday. So, in other words, they have no way of addressing this because they probably know that Jerome Powell is faking the funk when it comes to inflation being transitory, and these increases are going to be with us for quite some time. Look, part of the reason why this is happening is because a lot of people over the course of the whole shutdown, they figured, I don't want to do this job I was doing anymore, for better or for worse. A lot of them have moved into their own businesses. A lot of them have moved into other careers. And a lot of people may not be coming back into the jobs that they left when the government shut everything down. So that tight labor market is causing companies to have to raise wages in certain job categories. And of course, they pass that on. Those increases in costs are passed on to the customer, just like Kroger and the other companies said above. The administration is taking bold action to enforce the antitrust laws, boost competition in meat processing, and push back on profiteering that is hurting consumers, farmers, and ranchers across the country. Bunch of BS. Total freaking BS. If you want to go out and start a meat processing plant tomorrow, You can find the grants and loans and whatnot to do it. Okay, it's not an easy thing to do, but there's no one preventing anyone from getting into that business. So the White House is just, obfuscating. Finally, in the meantime, customers like you and I are looking for savings at the grocery store. Could opt for private label brands. So they call it private label brands. When I was growing up, we called it generic. And you can certainly do that with some of the products. I know my mother used to buy generic cereal, and really it tastes the same. It's a psychological thing. You don't see it in the Frosted Flakes box with Tony the Tiger. So when it says, something other than that, like frosted cornflakes or some derivation, your mind says it's not as good, but it is. Look, here's what you need to do. I've said this before, I'll say it again. You need to go get a freezer. You need to go to Home Depot tomorrow. You need to figure out where in your house you're going to put it. And then you need to fill it. And you need to do it now because they're saying that these prices are going up, okay? You probably also need to join a wholesale club. The more you shop at a wholesale club, the you go ahead and you easily defray the cost of the membership. So you probably need to go ahead and do those two things. We belong to a couple of wholesale clubs, BJ's and Costco, and we also have freezers in here, and I'm getting another one. In fact, as soon as I do this video, I'm going to start looking for one because I love to cook at home. I've got to eat, and prices are going up. So this is how we have to deal with this. Otherwise, we're going to risk not being able to put as much money to work for us because we're going to have to take money out of what we would have invested and spend it on food. And I know that a lot of you out there have kids and you have wives and husbands and whatnot, and you guys can't, rightly afford a 15% increase in beef and then also go ahead and continue to have money working for you at the clip that you were investing. So we need to be able to do all these things. We need to eat. Get yourself a freezer. Get yourself a membership to a wholesale club. Fill that freezer up with these items that are going up. And, we'll just weather the storm. It's not transitory, though, so that means we got to make money, okay? And lots of it. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you soon.